Hey, this is Ned.
My name is Zak Stinchcombe.
Hello, I'm Taliesin.
Hello everybody, this is Michaela from Real. I'm going to be asking a few questions to some artists who are going to be playing at our event on the 10th of March at Mascara Bar. If you could collaborate with any artist, dead or alive, who would it be and why?
I would want to collaborate with Nick Drake because Nick Drake is my all-time favourite singer-songwriter, and I don't think there's anyone that's written songs that sound like his songs, and I really would want to know how he approached the challenge of songwriting and how his whole creative brain worked.
My main inspiration at the moment is Derek Chuck's humble man, amazing slide guitar. He sounds like he's singing through his instrument. He performs with his wife. How beautiful is that? Susan Trucks, and they're a duo, and he also has his own band.
I would go with Tyler Joseph because he's one of the main reasons that I'm even making music full-time in the first place.
David Bowie, just because of how artistically like a chameleon he was, really. I think that would be such an exciting project and opportunity to be able to just learn from him as much as anything else.
What's the most unusual place you've ever performed and what made it special?
Strangest place I've ever played. I recently played in a barn in a back of a pub to 4 people, which is pretty weird.
I think the most unusual place that I've ever performed live is probably this school that I was volunteering at in Romania. But it was very special because it was actually the first time that I've ever performed live in front of an audience. It was a very cool experience.
Well, there's been a few of those, but I think probably the 2 most relevant ones, the first of those would have been a festival I did at Carfest, and that doesn't sound all that unusual, but the thing that made it unusual was that I arrived by foot. So there was that. And the second was again another outdoor show, and this was over in Sherborne, Dorset sort of way. And the thing that made that unusual was a herd of cows arrived and started listening. 30, 40 of them. They just sort of were attracted from the neighbouring fields, which was all quite exciting. Some nice photos that we still have to commemorate that experience.
The most unusual place I've ever performed, nothing comes to mind at the top of my head, although I bring my guitar everywhere with me, partly because of my commute. I'm studying at Trinity at the moment. I always have it on me, so I've performed in really weird places, outside public toilets, in the middle of parks, which isn't unusual at all. Maybe in the Dorset W.H. Smith, I'm not too sure.
If you had to describe your music in 3 words, what would they be?
Thoughtful, satisfying, crunchy.
I would probably go with authentic, inspiring, and transformative.
Folky singer-songwriter. Reckon that would do as well as anything else.
Nature, channeling, and stirring. It stirs up things in you. And I like to use the word provocative, but that has nuances that I do not intend to use. But I like things that are challenging what you believe to be true, and they make you introspect.
What's the biggest challenge you've had to face as a musician and how did you overcome it?
The biggest challenge that I'm facing as a musician is probably the lack of exposure, and it's a daily struggle, honestly, trying to get my music out there and just reach more people with it. Especially in this day and age when there's so many people that are trying to do the same thing. The way that I overcame that challenge is just telling myself that if it's really meant to be, it'll happen, and just continuing to make what I love, which is music.
The biggest challenge that I have ever faced as a musician is not owning any recording equipment. All I've got is a guitar, and I haven't overcome that challenge yet, but when I do overcome that challenge, it will be because money. That simple.
The hardest thing I've had to overcome as a musician is self-confidence, which I think is something that can be said for all of us, and most of us, or at least most of us. And it's something I still get over. I got over the nerves a long time ago, and to me the only way to resolve that is simply by telling yourself that you are enough.
One of the most, sort of relevant ones of those is just sort of learning the instruments as much as anything else. But I think outside of the kind of like pure mechanics of being able to play, I think the thing that I had to make sense of was that there was a difference between playing in your room or playing at the house or playing in front of a camera and playing in front of people. You know, sort of the expectations are entirely different, and I guess the threshold for what constitutes a good performance are entirely different as well. So yeah, that was pretty big. And I think the only way to get around that is by doing both, you know, sort of try and make sure that your sessions at home are as structured as possible so that you're gearing up for playing live, assuming that's what you want to do. And when you are live, you know, making sure that you're taking that opportunity to really hone your skills and make sure that you're giving off the best performance that you can do and making it as entertaining a show as you possibly can. And that just comes with experience, with doing more and more shows.
If you could go back in time and see any live musical performance, what would it be?
If I could see any gig, it would be Bill Withers live at Carnegie Hall. I think it's like 1973 that the live album's from, because that's just so cool.
There's a recording that Otis Redding has of him playing in London, and it's him singing Try a Little Tenderness, and it goes on for like 8 minutes, and it's so good. So I wish I'd been able to see that.
I mean, sort of the Jimi Hendrix Woodstock performance would have been great. The 1976 Bob Marley performance at the Rainbow Theatre, that would have been pretty exceptional. It might be that one, I think. If it was a bit more broad and being able to see a sort of tour, or if you like, as kind of era, then I would have loved to have gone and seen, you know, the $1 Million Quartet, you know, sort of seeing Jerry Lee Lewis, Johnny Cash, Al Perkins and Elvis on the sessions, you know, the Sun Sessions tour. I think that would have been something else.
If I could go back in time and watch any musical performance ever, I would have to go with the Live Aid concert with Queen.
If I could go back in time, I wish I could have seen Prince at the Super Bowl. Oh my gosh, I would have melted.
What's the best piece of advice you've ever been given, and by whom?
I think probably the best bit of advice that I've received came from a really good friend of mine, a lady called Ali Jones, who is also a musician, and she told me that only you are able to tell whether you've made a mistake, so stop wincing whenever you hit a bum note on a guitar solo or something similar. And she's right, really, because as soon as you start responding in that kind of way, that becomes evident to people in a way that it wouldn't have been otherwise, and provided you carry something off of confidence, then there is no such thing as a wrong note. You know, that's something that I heard Jacob Collier say fairly recently, and I think that there's a lot of truth in that.
The best piece of advice that I've received as a musician so far is probably to focus on creating a fan base rather than just reaching a bunch of people, because if one has even 1,000 dedicated fans, one can actually make a living out of music, which is awesome.
So I was writing a song. I was midway through trying to write this song. I was really stuck. I couldn't think of a chorus. And I went to hang out with my friend Don, and he's a musician as well, and so we got the guitars out, and I showed him what I'd been working on, and he went, "How long have you been trying to add a chorus?" And I went, "Oh, like a few days." And he went, "Well, if it's been that long and you haven't come up with a chorus, why don't you just not add one?" And it completely changed how I thought about songwriting and song structure and things that were important and not important and things that were like necessary and not necessary. And it made me realise that choruses are nice, but you don't need a chorus to make a good song. Equally, you could make a good song with just a chorus.
I know my favourite quote of all time is Louis Armstrong. I should do a bit more due diligence and go listen to some more Armstrong, some more Louis, not to be mixed up with the man that stepped on the moon. He said music is life itself, and the way I interpret that is go and experience life. Go and experience life, and you will have more things to sing about. Do not separate the two. They're both interlinked. The more you experience, the more you can express. So they are both interlinked. And in the same way, music is life itself. And reminds you of the proverb, from one thing you can learn 10,000 things. When you need guidance, you can look within music. There are so many aspects that represent the self and all parts of us and relationships. In a way, music is one of the most foundational relationships. Me with each of these notes is a relationship.
Well, that's me. Been a pleasure to be able to chat a little bit with you, and yeah, really looking forward to seeing you at Mascara Bar on the 10th of March.
I can't wait for the 10th. I'm so excited to share like so much new music